Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this podcast. Here we talk to pro musicians, people who are making careers in music, and just kind of talk about what they did, how they did it, and get some advice and just talk about them. So today I have Brett Ensley, award-winning film score composer, studio musician, esteemed teacher in the area. Hey Brett, how you doing today?
Man, doing great, Jordan. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure. Just real quick, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Brett Ensley. I am a composer, songwriter, artist developer, teacher, and we do a lot of recordings here at the studios. I do mainly what I do is I'm an artist developer where I take young artists that doesn't know a lot about pre-production. And what we do is when we take that pre-production, we take it from learning how to compose, how to work really hard to get a song into great shape. And then from there, we go through all the formalities of getting it scratched and then get a scratch recording. Then we get it full blown to a full recording. So they can have an excellent product by the end and they will know what it takes to actually get that song to Spotify. So basically, that's what we do here is we develop artists a lot. And we do record people from time to time, but that's what we like to do here.
Wow, super cool. So for yourself, when you were younger, just out of college or even while in music school, what were some of the biggest challenges or kind of doubt that you struggled with? Just wondering if you could make a career in music.
Yeah, a lot of doubts is that a lot of people, since when you tell people and you tell like my parents or anybody else like that, when you want to be a musician, they're like, well, join the club. There's millions of people out there that want to do music. And a lot of them don't make money. So how are you going to do it? And it's kind of like, it comes with that stigma, I think, sometimes, you want to be that typical musician that you might want to be on the couch, and just practice all the time, but really don't make a career out of it. Or that teaching doesn't make any money out of it. Well, these days, the game has changed a lot, and there's a lot of opportunities more, I think, now than ever to make a decent living out of doing music.
Yeah, I've definitely had a similar experience, and I'm trying to get into that as well. What was the point in your life where you realized, wow, this is something I can do. This is something I can not just make a living in, but be extremely profitable in?
Well, of course, growing up, after I got finished with college, I joined a band, doing like everybody else is trying to, tour with a band. My hope was different than the other guys. My aim was to be like Danny Elfman or Hans Zimmer and other places. I really wanted to be a film score composer, and a lot of them had played in bands and had gotten recognized for their music. The only problem is that with my band, some of the music, we were a little bit more rock and things like that. And even though we had some orchestra scores, I just don't know if it really lended itself sometimes. It could have, just depends on the
Danny
film.
Elfman, he played with the Buggles, didn't he?
Yeah, or something like
the video killed the radio star. Yeah, he did that.
Yes, he did. But the directors like finding unique music, and I mean, still to this day, people. That's the thing, is trying to find that unique style and a different style that, and then a director comes along and really wants to use you in a film, and things like that. But at the time, it's kind of what I wanted to do, and then I kind of got burned out of touring. When most people love to tour, I was not one of the people that like to travel all the time and tour. I kind of wanted to be one of these people that kind of be at a home base with the family and work music and do that. But yeah, so that's kind of where I was trying to go that direction.
Nice. Yeah, I actually just saw The Nightmare Before Christmas a few months ago with Danny Elfman, and oh my gosh, music in that is spectacular.
It is very spectacular, and it's funny that, him having a band background, I know that the first time that he was introduced, and you can watch his interviews, and it's interesting, and I'll make it very short, is that he said that he didn't quite have the skills yet to do orchestra type stuff, and he said he was surrounded himself with people who could, and of course Danny Elfman is like anybody else in this business, wants to learn and grow, and he learned from a lot of great people. And look, I mean, he's extremely talented. I mean, he was extremely talented to begin with. It's just making that right music society, getting around the right people, is, I would say, is a big key for success.
Gosh, and that's a great thing what you just said, just putting yourself in environments that you're not comfortable with. Because if you waited till you were ready, you'd probably never do anything.
No, you wouldn't. You're never ready. That's the thing with society that bugs me. Yeah. I'm just saying from my perspective is that you've been taught going through school never to fail. And in life, you fail all the time. Yep. And what you try to do is you try to be successful by learning from your mistakes and growing. And I'm one of these people. And the more I do, the more I'm never afraid to fail. I try to give it my all. And you're always going to fail. And it's not fun to fail. But I tell you one thing though, but to grow from it and to get it the next time, it's a great feeling.
I'm ready to go make some music now.
That's right. It's like go do it.
All right. Speaking of that, if I was to give you a prompt on the spot, could you show us kind of your songwriting process or what would go through your mind?
Ooh, yes.
Like a 5-minute
It's like, just go.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to think of a prompt. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so say we're in a movie and what's happening. I'm just going to come up with something.
Okay. This is on the spot, people.
Your antagonist or your villain is dying, but he's someone who's a redeemable character, kind of like Darth Vader, where you kind of feel bad for him at the end. How would you score something? What's immediately coming to your mind? I know I'm really putting you on the spot.
I love it. No. So, gosh, you could take it any kind of way. I mean, like, for me, if you want to be sad and villain, obviously, let's just go easy on people who are listening. You would do a kind of a minor kind of thing, right? So right there. Now that has
nice.
Very simple. Has no sevenths or ninths, because seventh ninths, it uplifts it.
Whoa.
So when you add a 7 and a 9 to it, all of a sudden now the character is more rich. And the reason why is when you start adding extensions to the chord, it starts adding more sophistication to the character a little bit sometimes. And then if I want to go out of the key a little bit,
nice.
See, that's sophistication. But if I didn't add the 7, just went straight minor, then it gets kind of sad, right? If I want to make it redeemable at a certain spot, then you would kind of uplift it a little bit. You can uplift.
Nice.
See,
wow.
So sometimes, well, for me, I love to start with a melody, but sometimes I like to find to me, a melody is a character, and the harmony, right, is like the setting. So sometimes I work a little backwards. That I like to play with the setting a little bit to get the feeling of what I want. And then I'm like, oh, I like this chords for a minute, the setting.
Yeah.
This is where my character's going to be. And then I try to write a melody from there based on sometimes that. So sometimes I go backwards because John Williams, I've studied him so much. And I'll give a shout out to JJ on this one, and I'll wink. So with JJ and everything else, what we'll do typically is... we studied John Williams, and he loves to write a melody. He says that he will spend almost like 3 weeks working on a melody, and then spend the last week in orchestration, because the melody is so important, because that's your character and stuff like that. And that, in a nutshell, that's kind of the writing process. It just starts messing around. Like we had one where we're messing around with a melody, or something like. And I was like, that's pretty good. That's a sell, but how can we finish it? So that sounds like an interesting sell, and then when you start putting harmony to it,
nice, yeah.
So
really puts you in an environment.
Yeah, puts you in an environment, all right. Yeah, so something like that, and see that key is writing that melody. Well, that's just an A, and then you can keep going and expanding from there.
Wow, super cool, man.
Yeah.
So would you say the harmony or the melody is more important?
Ooh, I would say it's like a marriage. They're both equally important, and they both play a role, and they play a different role. I mean, you can keep the same melody and change the harmony, and all of a sudden you go from a love theme to a hate theme or a fight theme just based on harmony, and still keeping the melody somewhat. So it's like I said, it's kind of like you can have a setting, but without a character, it seems kind of weird. Or you can have a character, and it seems a little weird without a setting. So it's kind of like melody and harmony are kind of entwined together.
And often they can live alone. Like you could have just a texture creating your harmony.
You can.
Without having a melody imposing.
And you can,
or just a melody on its own.
And it's really funny because a lot of people can listen to just harmony and really not think nothing of it, without the melody. But the funniest thing is I've noticed that so many people, when that's the case, they have a picture in mind where they've seen it from a movie or from a video game. They love, I love that score. And even though during that time it might be a lot of texture that the composer is trying to, put in the movie or whatever. I've found out that so many people are so married to the scene. They love the scene, and when they hear that music, immediately they know how it's supposed to feel, how they view the character and stuff like that. So I find that people do associations a lot of times with things. Or it could be the mood they're in. So their mood associates with certain music, and people will have to keep going back to that. And every time they listen to it, it triggers certain things inside of them. That's why music's so wonderful.
What's a piece that does that for you?
Ooh.
One that really sticks out in your mind, just right off the bat.
Ooh, boy. Wow. That's a big, okay.
I mean, I'll tell you, for me, it's probably the Force theme from Star Wars. That's a really special one for me.
Okay, yeah.
And Luke's looking at the twin suns.
That's incredible. Incredible.
But that can make me feel great angst, or I can also feel really uplifted by it, because the darkness of the story, but it's also really good.
Oh, yeah,
So it's got And I think
it does. I would agree. I mean, the Force theme is fantastic. Gosh, there's so many things. Oh my gosh, when you ask that and you got so many things for so many occasions and stuff like that. Wow. But yeah, I would have to say, wow, I think you hit the nail on the head. The Force theme is just incredible because I love the emotion behind it.
And it's kind of mirroring Luke making a decision between the dark side and the light side. So it has a little bit of that ominous space, but it's also very pure.
Yeah, it is. It's very pure. And like you said, it could go either way. It's just so packed and full of emotion. And he uses it so much and he breaks it apart and puts so many things. It was just, even that melody, it was so versatile. I mean, it was so versatile when you do it. I'd say another one, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, why are you bringing that theme out? And it's being used so much by Morricone is that what's incredible, if you go back and listen to it, it's incredible because in the 70s you have this thing where they started bringing pop music into film scoring a little bit. And he's got a mixture of both. And it's so incredible. If you go back and you can go on YouTube and watch, I think it's called the Danish Symphony, I think it's what it's called. They recreate it, and you go watch, and you watch this. You watch the woman where she is whistling, then she's using her vocal for some weird kind of thing, and then she's singing, and then you got all of a sudden you've got a 70s bass guitar and a 70s guitar, then you have the orchestra, then you have a choir, and then you have a weird soprano singing something, and then you have a whistle and a recorder, and then you have all these like instruments mixed in there, and that's like so relevant today because you think about the Mandalorian with that music and everybody loves it and it's kind of got somewhat of a Western feel to it because of the setting, and it brings back to Morricone when he did Good, Bad, and Ugly. He really set a tone for Westerns in some ways. Besides, because most people when they did Magnificent Seven and other things, it was like a branch off of like the Appalachian Springs from Copeland. He kind of, when you listen to that classical piece, you think, wow, if I was in the Rocky Mountains, this is exactly how I'd feel, Well, Morricone had a different kind of way of thinking when he said, hey, I got this movie here. Let's put all these pop kind of instruments mixed with the orchestra. And it's a unique sound. And that's what today in film scoring, people want to find not only a melody, but they want to find a unique setting. You know what I'm saying, for their characters and stuff like that. And so Mandalorian has a very unique sound, and that composer, he's really good.
Yeah, I can't. He's the guy that did Black Panther. His name's escaping me right now.
I know it is too. I was trying to think of his name, and I can't remember.
Oh my goodness!
I know. I was trying to think of it too, but yeah,
it's something Swedish or Nordic. But what's so cool about that is his Western theme sounds so familiar, but it also sounds otherworldly at the same time.
He did a great job.
The instrumentation use, I guess, just seems otherworldly in some senses.
Well, that's what I'm starting to get a big sense of, and that's where, if you want to find one of my flaws, is that I've always done the classical orchestra type stuff, and this year's where it's going to change for me a little bit, is that I need to really experiment with a lot of different instruments or things to create sound foley music and make a song out of it, and that's what a lot of people do.
Gosh, that's so cool. And then you see guys like Brian Tyler; they can make a whole track just out of Foley.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that when
he could go in his kitchen and just use all his ingredients around the kitchen. Doesn't even need an instrument.
Was it the movie Drive? I think it was that he used a car and used parts from a car, and
he was making it, and he used
took all the samples.
Door.
That's right, and he went in there and he started making all these sounds out of it. I think he has a commercial now. He loves Formula One racing, and I do too. I really like it a lot. But I think he also did I think he's going to, or he already has. I think he's going to score some music for their upcoming commercials and stuff like that. And he was really excited. And I think he will be using some sounds from the cars.
You can get some sweet percussive, and then you're working more with rhythms than you are with the melody.
Yeah, you would think.
What kind of feels you can get.
Yeah, but he's got where he's doing great, where you can take a sound and what you can do is start pitch correcting it, and then all of a sudden you can trigger that in your keyboard and start triggering samples.
Yeah,
and Lord behold, you got sounds that you made out of could be just a hitting metal.
Hitting a mayonnaise container.
You could these days people do a lot of great stuff about developing software. I mean, they do. I mean, because now with technology, sky's the limit on what your creativity can be.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a whole track with one thing.
Yes, it's crazy. Insane. I even saw a recent person that I taught just a little, and he's actually out in UCLA, and he used rocks from the mountains, and he was dropping them, and he was hitting them and smashing them, and he got all these sounds, and he made a really great percussive bed out of percussion, one of his orchestra pieces. And then he took something else he got from the mountains that had somewhat of a pitch. I couldn't remember because it's been a while since I've seen it. But he used that sound for one of his keyboard sounds in his thing. So I'm starting to think, film score guys are really thinking outside the box these days.
Yeah, that's awesome.
On where to get their sounds from besides relying on, buying samples, which is nothing wrong with that. That's good too. But I'm just saying that yeah.
And then you could use instruments in unconventional ways, like take a violin and start smacking it, plucking the strings up under the bridge, different things.
Yeah, because now people are taking like auto tune, and they can use they'll take these pitches that they would do on a violin. It's really weird. It might be plucked. They might use pizzicato or other things like that, and they'll take that and they'll warp it and do some really cool things where it makes really unique sounds out of it, and then all of a sudden they'll put it and track it and do like a little really cool. Like,
you hear that in pop music a lot, I think.
Yes, you do.
Or like pop leads. They'll
yeah,
use those strings.
you got Phineas, with Billy Eilish's brother, and I mean you can watch all for days on him, and they got a song where he struck a match in a bathroom, and he used that for his snare, that whoosh, whoosh, and then by the time he formed it, it sounded like a like that, but that was striking a match, and the song had to do with burn, about burning.
Gosh, that is really
like
clever.
So,
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, so there's some clever things that people do.
Yeah. And then another question. Throughout your career, and then working with other musicians, what do you see being more prevalent? There's the old adage, hard work beats talent. Do you think there's a mix of, can a talented person get right to the top, or do you have to be a hard worker, or is it a mixture of both? Well, can you make it to the top just off hard work, but not really being the most talented?
Well, that is true. The thing is, from what I understand, there are tons of talented people, and I come across a lot of them. And I've asked a couple of times of even some great people that I have met, what is it? And it always comes down to hard work. It comes down not to worry about failure. It comes down like when you practice and you've practiced and you practice and oh my goodness, you start playing something and you failed at it. You just want to like take your hands and beat the piano or beat the instrument that you're playing. These talent, because everybody, if you have learned an instrument decently well, you've got talent. From here on out, it takes the part of getting the right feel. That's the thing, is that I guess the thing that separates people is that you have to start working hard to develop yourself so you can be unique. Everybody's got talent, but they don't want to work hard enough to develop who they are, what they want, because they'll play like everybody else is, and they play this and they play that, but there's that next step. And I've learned, I think it's just people, they work hard, but they find a niche, and they work hard, and even though they got failures, they just keep breaking through these barriers, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of strength to break through these things. So I would lean towards, yes, you got to have talent, but everybody, if you can learn an instrument and you're doing very well at an instrument, you got talent. That's start one. I think from there, it's working really hard and working to develop yourself to be the best you can be, and let the chips fall where they may, and let your hard work be the deciding factor where you place yourself in this world.
Yeah, and then some of that's just working smarter as well, knowing what are the things you need to be working on.
True.
Because you could practice 8 hours a day wasting your time.
Yeah, I've learned too, it helps a lot to, here we go back again, to surround yourself with the right people that can get you to the spot you need to get to. And you never need to stop learning.
Because they have the blueprint for you.
They do. You can get online, and that's great. I mean, you can get online and take lessons online. And that's great. But I'm starting to find out you still need that person that really is in your life, and that person that's there to really get a chance to look at you and say, well, you're growing, but you could cut the curve by doing this and this, or you could get there. I know that everybody wants the secret to success on how to get there faster, and it's hard to get there faster because it just takes work. But I think the most important thing is that you need to recognize what's unique about you. When you find out what that is, when you're along the process of growing, then that's where you got to put your effort. That's where you got to put your money into yourself and fund yourself to do that.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
So, just talking about what talent is, have you ever had a student that has right away shown themselves as being someone who is spectacular, learns really quickly? And then on the other side of that, have you ever had a student where you're like, ooh, I don't know if this is going to be for you? Does everyone kind of innately have similar talent levels, or is there a difference kind of genetically?
Well, there is okay, that's a great question. I think
it's something I think, because I mean, some people can just sing like beautifully without really putting a lot of effort into it, but other people have to work hard at it.
That is true. I find myself that being around music a pretty good bit now, my opinions have changed back and forth on that. You asked, Someone has asked that. That is a good question.
Yeah, mine has as well.
That's a good question. Okay. So if one person I have seen come in here, I have seen him have chops for days right off the bat. Blaze, very talented, right? But I've also saw the part of where he was lazy enough not to go after it because it came so easy to him that he just didn't want to go.
You don't have to talk about me right here.
No, he didn't want to go much further than that. And then I have seen someone who had to really work hard to get where they were at. But the problem is that they developed such a work ethic on it.
Yeah.
They started catching up to the next person, and then they end up surpassing the person because they don't slow down.
Yeah, and that's applicable to really anything in life. I oftentimes see music and sports being really similar.
Yeah.
Some people can run faster than someone else, but it's about who's going to be training. You can surpass that other person.
You can, because that's the thing I've learned, and I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen with my own eyes when you develop people. I've seen the people who work hard and stay at it. It's not about. I've learned about something. It's not about how fast you get there, and I've seen that's the thing. If someone's a little bit more talented than the other, I've learned that someone can get there faster and learn. But I'm telling you, the people who just chuck away and really grind it out, and they stay grinding it out and continue to grind it out, they end up having...
So it's almost better not to be talented because then you learn how to deal with that adversity early. And
that
it kind
is
of builds
true,
your character
because
a little bit.
I've learned someone... Because sometimes the attitude comes across when you're extremely talented. Sometimes it's like, I've got it and I don't
Big
need
fish in a small pool.
Yeah, and I don't have... Yeah, and the problem is that when they get into a pool where there's now it's the ocean and everybody has got chops for days. I see.
And then they can sight read and they can play by ear. And
I've seen it from hand to hand where people will go to Berklee College of Music and they were phenomenal in this area, but when they went there, they were average and they didn't know how to accept that. And then they realized, oh wow, I've actually got to work to keep up with all these people. Yeah. And that's where sometimes they don't want to do it. And then that's where they end up dropping off and they settle, do local stuff and they settle. Yeah. When other ones will keep that, and keep going and pushing and developing, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Cool. Just in parting, because we got to wrap this up.
Okay.
If you could give one piece of advice to amateur, professional, or beginner musicians, what would that be? Ooh. On their journey, musical journey. And then that's for anybody that wants to play an instrument or is interested.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to it again. The best piece for me is to never give up.
Yeah.
Never give up. I see too many people, they cannot accept failure or they're afraid of it. Mm-hmm. You need to embrace it because to be in this line of work, you're going to get hit with people all the time and they're going to say you're not good enough and you're never going to amount to this and they're going to say all kind of things. And you can't wear your feelings on your shoulders and get hurt. You're going to have to keep pushing despite what someone tells you.
Yeah, that's great advice. And also, I would say find things that are fun for you. Yeah. Especially for amateur musicians, fine, because that's more likely to keep you engaged. And with my students too, I know you do this.
Yes.
I try and give them stuff that's going to keep them engaged.
Yes.
That also kind of tricks them into getting better, but I know that it's going to be something that they're going to have fun with and want to take with them.
Absolutely, and that's why a lot of my students, I make them choose their music and go They go do the research and go figure out what they love about music. Because I get musicians sometimes getting started out, and I'm like, "What do you like to listen to?" Well, I don't listen to music, and I'm like, "Well, you're in the wrong business."
I know.
I'm like, okay. Our first lesson, go back and start listening to music because
I love listening homework.
That's the most important part is really loving music and listening to it.
Yep. Great advice. Yeah, and it's really bad when teachers just kind of give their students whatever without ever getting feedback back. I think a lot of classical teachers fall into that, which I do teach classical piano, and I know you do as well, but we try and merge it with fun stuff too.
Yeah, we try to because, they definitely need to know technicality, but at the same time, they need to know why. They need to understand why they would love it or why they would like it. If they don't understand it and they're just going by what you say, they just don't seem to have the drive to want to learn it. I'd rather give them something hard right off the bat if they're going to love it and keep pushing through it.
Yeah, great advice. But sweet. It's been awesome sitting here with you, Brett. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel really
it's like, we're trying to go, but it's good.
Nice, but I'll see you later, Brett. And I hope everybody listening was able to learn something, and I hope you guys all enjoyed yourselves. Yes. Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
All right, thanks for seeing me.